Hello and welcome to Presenting Yourself with Confidence by Silicon Valley English. My name is Sunil Modi. Today's topic will be about ethics in listening. This is the third lecture in a series of many. Today I will lay the groundwork for the theory of ethics and listening. Most all of what we will cover in this course are topics and ideas that you've already heard before, but the goal is to actually put them into practice. I'm a big believer that no matter how many times you read or watch a video on riding a bike or learning how to swim, the only way to learn is to actually do it. Today's agenda. We're going to cover some pretty heavy topics that we don't think about often, especially since we have access to so much information. We're going to cover the importance of ethics, guidelines for ethical speaking, plagiarism, and guidelines for ethical listening. Then we'll cover topics such as listening and why it's so important to pay attention, listening for critical thinking, how to overcome poor listening. Sometimes we just zone out, so how can we prevent that, and tips on how to become a better listener. Generally speaking, with ethics, is it right, wrong, moral, or immoral? I'm of the belief that if you have to ask the question, is it right or wrong, then you've probably already got a problem on your hands. Most all of us have intuition, or maybe a better example is an angel and a devil on our shoulders telling us this is good or bad. And when that little angel comes out, listen to it. That intuition is a good thing to pay attention to. If you don't think you have one, then let's ask a few questions to find out. Do you tell the professor about your friend who's been cheating on the exam or during class? This one might not seem like it's too big of a deal. This one's not an extreme example of everyday ethics. However, it is an example of basic everyday ethics. Let's try a little more extreme example. If my mother is dying and I need medicine but cannot afford it, is it okay to steal? There's no right or wrong answer here, but it does pose a very moral, ethical question. Ethics tap into parts of our morality we may not normally question, but are highly relevant as a public speaker. As a public speaker, you are the authority on the information you're presenting. Take your position seriously, because the second you get in front of people, it is assumed that you have a background and are knowledgeable on what you're talking about. In an ideal world, all people, especially public speakers, should be honest and devoted to the betterment of society. But we know that this has not been the case, and history and present day have shown us otherwise. We know of many leaders both in the past and in our very current present who have spread fear and hate or even killed millions of people. CEOs and executives who have knowingly taken millions of dollars at the expense of others. Though it may have been made famous by Ben Parker, the quote still holds true to this day, that with great power does come great responsibility. And you, as a public speaker, can literally make 1 million people march. There are some guidelines for ethical speaking that we should pay attention to. Number 1, am I serving my own interest, or is what I'm doing actually better for society? Number 2, we should argue our own speeches and presentations to ensure that we have covered all our bases. Try and find weaknesses within your own argument. Try and debate your topic with other people. This will help you not only gain more confidence, but also help you convey your message to the audience, because you've not only exercised critical thinking, but found ways that other people think as well. A quick note on poorly prepared presentations. And there are so many out there. For example, let's say you're giving a 30-minute speech to 100 people. That's an awesome opportunity to have, that so many minds are there to pay attention to you. But if you're not prepared and haven't vetted all your ideas, you've just wasted over 50 hours of time. That's a full combined 2 days, not to mention that there are 100 people now who know who you are and will only remember you for wasting their time. Question every aspect of your presentation and find the holes. Be truthful and be honest. A hidden agenda is easy to spot, and if you have a hidden motive, it will probably end up being shown without you even knowing it. Speaking with conviction, speaking with purpose, brings out the best speeches. I think Martin Luther King Jr.'s I Have a Dream speech is a true testament to that. Don't bring others down. If you're going to talk about other people, companies, organizations, or groups, keep them in a good frame of reference. Bringing them down or saying anything negative about them will only reflect poorly on you and leave a bad impression with your audience. Try and practice these daily, because with anything you practice daily, it just becomes habit. When you're a small child, brushing your teeth wasn't exactly habit. You had to practice every day until you got the hang of it, and now it's something you don't even think about. If you're an avid fitness enthusiast, remember the first time you started at the gym? You probably didn't like it because it was so unfamiliar, and then you grew to love it. This is no different. Ethics will become part of your everyday living and everyday thought process. It will be unfamiliar at first, and you will get used to thinking about it on your own. We've been taught in school that plagiarism is bad and it's equivalent to stealing. The ramifications could be severe. Plagiarism is no different than stealing. It's literally taking someone else's ideas and claiming them as your own. Some of the content I use for my lectures is loosely based on the book The Art of Public Speaking by Stephen Lucas. It's a good book and has a lot of great examples. I think people can benefit from a free online course on public speaking, which is why I make these videos. Thanks to the thing we call the internet, we have access to a lot more information. This is great for learning and sharing ideas. However, it also makes it very easy to claim other people's work as your own and not give any credit. There are other forms of plagiarism like patchwork plagiarism or incremental, both of which are similar in nature. Patchwork and incremental plagiarism take small little bits from multiple sources and put them together and present them as a single presentation, making it appear as though it's a single piece of work. With so much information out there and so little regulation, one could make the argument that everything is plagiarized from something else. This could be partially true, but in reality, it's pretty easy to tell when something has been completely ripped off or just used as reference. For any presentation or any work you do that you've borrowed from someone else, give it credit to where you got it from, use quotes for well-known phrases or statements. If your friend gave you an idea, you would at least give them a shout out to acknowledge their contribution. Listening is something that we should just practice every day, but it's incredibly difficult. We think we listen, but do we actually digest the information that we hear? There are so many sounds that go on a day-to-day basis that we have to selectively take in what we want to hear and what we want to ignore. The gist of listening is to drop your preconceived notion of what others say and give them a chance to teach you something new. The golden rule always applies, and if you want people to pay attention to you, you must first be willing to pay attention to them. Most people in any respectable position actually listen more than they speak. They're trying to understand how the speaker can assist them. All the while, they're critically thinking about what skills the speaker has and how and what the speaker is saying can be used in the organization. Having an open mind means that you should always be looking for learning opportunities wherever you are, especially during speeches, since the speaker took their time to share something they thought was important to them. Think of every presentation as a gift. If you are the speaker, you're giving a gift to the audience. You're sharing knowledge with the audience. If you're in the audience, you're receiving a gift. The speaker took the time out of their day to deliver something to you that you didn't have otherwise. It might not be as cool as debt relief from John Oliver, or a car from Oprah, but nonetheless the gift of knowledge is one to not be taken lightly. If we spend all of our time talking and none of it listening, how much can we possibly learn? Everyone always has something to say. Instead, try not speaking. The worst case scenario, it's a quiet room. Couldn't we all use a little more quiet in our lives anyway? In a lot of ways, technology has made communication and listening a lot worse. Most people now want information in short bursts and don't really have the patience to sit through a 20-minute speech, unless they are being entertained. It's for both good and bad, but something to just take note of as a public speaker. You're not just disseminating information. You are in a lot of ways providing entertainment to the audience. Put yourself in the audience's shoes and think to yourself, what would keep me entertained? Now put yourself back in the speaker's shoes and think, how can I entertain? Both perspectives are very different from each other. The more you practice putting yourself in other people's shoes and really think how or why they are doing what they're doing, the more you will appreciate not only their efforts, but your own as well. When people thank you for your presentation and tell you that it was really good and they learned a lot, that feels really good. The same goes for when you give a compliment to a good speaker. There are a few types of listening. The first two, appreciative and empathetic, are more for the private type. You're enjoying music or taking in a show, or maybe even being a friend to someone in need. Comprehensive and critical listening are where we're going to focus more of this time. These have to deal with information that you can do something with. Video instructions on how to build your kid's new playground set means you're just taking information in and making sure your frame of reference is accurate so that you don't end up with that unused part which could make the whole thing collapse. Yikes! Say you're shopping for a new car. You're going to go around to each dealer, and each time you're going to go in with some questions and figure out if the sales guy knows what he's actually talking about. Or maybe you already know the product and the dealership is trying to pitch their loan options to you. You're going to be questioning the loan every step of the way to ensure it's the best deal for you. There are many reasons for not paying attention. I'm sure we can all think back to when we were in school and our teachers would snap at us and tell us to pay attention or there would be consequences. Once you're out of K through 12 and in university, no one's going to tell you to pay attention anymore. The repercussions of not paying attention in the modern world are anywhere from a slap on the wrist to losing your job or even your home. Paying attention is a big deal. So how do you do it and not get burnt out by it? Paying attention is a bit of an art form in and of itself. I find the best way for me is to imagine myself as a central character in the speaker's story. When I put myself as the focal point of the story arc, Kind of like Mario or Link, I can let my imagination guide me to what the speaker is saying. Would my character agree or disagree with what the speaker is saying? The polar opposite of that is listening for every single detail. That gets incredibly exhausting. Recalling history, it's easier for me to remember the events that took place rather than the dates and the times the events took place. I know that when I was a kid, my family moved at the end of my 3rd grade, and I started 4th grade in a new school. The experience of the move comes back much faster, and then I can reverse engineer the dates from there based on my assumed age in 3rd grade and 4th grade. Once you latch on to the story the speaker's trying to tell, it's much easier to pay attention. And we all have a tendency to do this, especially with familiar topics. We roll our eyes and think, okay, I already know where this is going. I have some time to catch some Z's. Yes! There's an old saying, assuming only makes an asset of you and me, and by jumping to conclusions, you're the ultimate loser. You missed an opportunity to learn from a speaker how to or how not to present a topic, what analogies were used, and how the speaker related to the audience. Pay attention. Getting hung up on what the speaker looks like is a very poor way to attend a speech. Say Stephen Hawking comes out and does a presentation. Okay, first, very cool, you get to hear Stephen Hawking speak. But second, you got hung up on the way his voice synthesizer sounds. That's entirely your loss. You missed an opportunity to hear a brilliant mind speak, all because you were too hung up on your own immaturity. Even after all that, there's some more ways that we can become better listeners. If you know you have issues paying attention, go in with the mentality that it's going to be a learning experience. If you're going in begrudgingly, you're probably better off staying at home. Active listening is again putting yourself in the story and pretending like you're the character. How can this relate to you? Technology is great, but it's also annoying, especially in movie theaters and public speaking engagements. Don't be the person who forgot to silence their phone and now the entire audience can hear your stupid ringtone. You can always judge people, but ask yourself, does that judgment impact you or the speaker? More than likely, it's impacting you because you're missing out on information. Everything around us is information and a learning opportunity. Don't shut it down. Be a detective on the hunt for errors or holes. Apply critical thinking in all aspects. Does what the speakers say actually resonate with me, or is there something suspect going on here? If you had to tell this story to a group of friends, how would you convey this story? And lastly, if all else fails, go in with a pen and paper and just write and write and write. You may not connect with the story, but at least you have notes that can make sense to you so that you can reassemble it at a later time. These are ways to help you pay attention while you're in the audience. Remember, you've taken the time out of your busy day to attend this conference, lecture, meeting. Make the most of it and walk away learning something new. So thank you very much for watching today's lecture on ethics and listening. Today we covered why ethics are important, a few guidelines regarding ethics, plagiarism, and a few variations how to listen, why listening is important, and how to be a better listener so that we can always be learning. Again, my name is Sunil Modi, and if you would like more information, please check out SiliconValleyEnglish.net or check out the links below. Thank you very much, and have a great day.